Good afternoon, Inspiring Illuminators. It's me, Jennifer Engel, your highest possibility state subconscious coach. It is 11:34 here on a very beautiful Sunday afternoon, late morning, early afternoon here in Illinois. The skies are blue, the clouds are puffy. It's almost a perfect temperature. I've kind of had this aha moment, so I thought I'd share it with you. You know, I always talk about focusing on the positive and script flipping to have your mind on the positive. And I'm still a believer of that, and I'll still tell you why I tell people should do that in a little bit. You might be able to hear the cicadas in the background. They represent rebirth at the end of every summer, which is kind of interesting. You know, the trees soon will signal a metaphorical death when their leaves begin to turn and fall. But the cicadas remind us that after death there's rebirth. And so I listen to, YouTube channels. A big one that I listen to a lot, I'll give a shout out to, is Brian Scott. What he does is he takes older New Age authors from like the 1914s to maybe the 1930s, 40s, maybe into the 70s, mostly like that range, and he'll read their books. And what's interesting is the way that I think and perceive has been thought and perceived for many years. It's just not the mainstream way of thinking and perceiving. But people as far back as then have been thinking and perceiving that we kind of create our own reality. Now, for those of you who don't know, I'll slowly be coming out with this. And you may hear me cough once in a while. I had cancer in 2014. I was cancer-free for 5 years. Last fall, the 6th year, I had like a little spot on my L2 on my spine. I only needed 3 doses of radiation for that. I was cancer-free again, technically, I guess. And now they found some stuff in my lungs. So this talk is kind of timely in some aspects. And I generally find that when I'm going through something, one of the things that, I've talked about many of the things that get me through difficult times. One is my positive daily habits. You know, my 3 to 5. This is what I do, no matter what I'm thinking or how I'm feeling every day. Because on the good days, you do it with a whistle. And on the bad days, it gives you momentum to kind of turn the ship around, if you will. But another thing is, part of those daily habits is getting out and taking a daily walk. And movement really helps open up flow for me, physically, mentally, and I feel like it connects me to the force, the source, whatever you want to call it. And it's during my listening to my YouTubes and or just being quiet. So sometimes I might listen to a YouTuber podcast for 2 minutes. Sometimes 20 minutes or an hour. And I just always kind of know when I'm supposed to stop. And then once I stop, I really reflect and digest what's been said. And then I kind of listen. I get even more quiet in the silence. And then in the silence, kind of fills in the gaps for me or gives me more information. So if I can remember, I'll put down the YouTube I was listening to. Let's see. It was on Brian Scott reading Walter Russell's The Secret of Light. So hopefully I'll be able to tell you the timestamp. But I literally only listened, so this one is a 5-hour read, and I listened to, I don't know, a bunch of it like 2 days ago, and this morning I turned it on, and I only listened to about 2 minutes, because the concept was basically so we all kind of like believe in this community, we manifest our own reality, and we do it by having a thought, and then that thought creates a feeling and a judgment within our body, and it's the feeling and the belief about that thought that manifests into our reality. Now, a lot of new agey, new thought people will say, only focus on the positive, which, to be honest, is what I've been talking about for a long time. And you want to do that. But this kind of like, what? Huh? Moment that I had today was a quote, something about how we, and I've heard this also from another totally different source a couple days ago. So again, when you hear things multiple times in your reality, it's kind of, that's what the universe is trying to talk to you about. And so it's this concept that we have to have duality. We have to have negative, and we have to have positive. Now, I kind of knew that like on a real basic level, but you know, when you just get diagnosed with possible cancer again, you go, why this negative? Like WTF, right? And one of the things that the universe was telling me after I hit stop, and I was really thinking about and pondering on this thought, we have to have positive and negative in order to manifest. You can't just have positive. It's like, well, that sounds like a shitter. And I have known, and what the universe has told me and taught me, is it's actually the negative, the challenges, the problems that allow us to grow. Let's be honest. If we're comfortable and we never experience challenges or anything like that, then we become complacent. It is actually the negative, and this is what the universe was talking to me about. The negative is the wind in our sails. If we think of ourselves like a boat on the ocean, and the ocean is our emotions, the negative is the wind in our sails. It is the wisdom that we've learned and bring with us and carry with us when we have gone through the challenges. You know, I have talked about finding the miracle in the mud. You could just look at the mud, right? And that's what a lot of people do. Or you could dig around in the mud and find the potatoes and the carrots, you know, the onions, the garlic. You can find the miracles, the food, the lessons that sustain us after having been planted in the mud and reaching up for the light. So the negative is the wind in our sails. Okay, it's the wisdom we've learned after we've emerged from the mud. Okay, or we've grown from being stuck in the mud and in the darkness. The positive is the lighthouse in the distance, the end point, the GPS, the destination, desired destination in which we want to go toward. Okay, it is hope. So we have to have the wisdom, we have to have the uncomfortability to say, ooh, this is uncomfortable, I don't want to be here anymore, in order to get our butts up moving toward where we'd rather be. And that's how we grow, and that's how we evolve. Now, if you don't have positive and negative, you have stagnation. And I've talked about this in past Jaunts with Jen. If you look at a pond, a river, whatever, that's been stagnant, and hopefully I'll remember to put my video link below. I kind of went more in depth in this. I think it was in the video I Don't Want to Be Here. When you have a pond, a river, some food trapped in a plastic bag with no access to air, it molds, it rots, it decays, it becomes clouded with algae that will suck the life out of it. And so, it is good to be planted in the mud, but we don't want to stay in the mud. We don't want to stay in the negative and in the difficulty. We want to grow beyond it and reach for the light. Because I do believe that is why we are down here, to grow and to evolve, to become more, to learn more. And it's kind of like a seed that refuses to do that, the darkness will overtake it. You know, I was having a conversation with a friend yesterday, and not just him, but myself, and I've talked to many other people. The first time people start going into their subconscious, and I said this many times before too, is the first thing they see and experience is the creepy crawlies, the fear, the guilt, the insecurity. And people will literally see them like demons, devils, monsters. They'll literally come into their imagination, their third eye, sometimes even into like their physical space. Those are the monsters we've created. And if we remain stagnant, if we don't move, if we don't transform them, and the way that I was explaining this to another friend last night is, rather than seeing them as monsters and demons and devils, I started picturing them like the Wizard of Oz. It's not necessarily that my fears are bad, or that my guilt is bad, or that my insecurities are bad. They're just uneducated. They're just like the scarecrow who doesn't have a brain. They're just like the Tin Man who doesn't have a heart. They're just like the lion who doesn't have courage. But the key word is yet. They just don't have them yet. The power of yet. And so, when I started seeing it that way, I started using visualization and script flipping to transform my own demons and devils and fear and cowardice and insecurities into the opposite. I literally close my eyes and I say, okay, fear, okay, guilt, okay, insecurity, show me the miracle in the mud. You're here to teach me something. And then once I understand, you don't have to be fear. You don't have to be guilt. You don't have to be insecurity anymore. Now I'm the powerful Wizard of Oz. I'm going to give you a brain. I'm going to give you a heart. I'm going to give you courage. And again, you get these things through practice. And again, it's never a one and done thing. The pattern is always going to happen, especially if you're not learning the lesson. And so, what you need to do in order to have the pattern truly be transformed, you have to align your heart and your mind, and you have to stay focused on the lighthouse, on the desired destination, and you cannot waver. Yes, behind you, and I've been thinking about this too because I believe I manifest my own reality, and when you believe that, you get kind of scared because you say, well, shit, I'm going to manifest my fears. And sometimes we do, consciously or subconsciously. But I just had like this new like aha enlightening moment because I was actually getting a little bit afraid. You see, I believe in some aspects I keep manifesting my own sickness. I was born sick out of the box. That's a hard pattern to flip and rewire. Okay, and then every time you tell someone you're sick, they almost like reconfirm in you that you're sick through their fears, through their insecurities. And then you have to kind of tell them like, it's gonna be fine. That's one thing that I've been telling people this third time. Do not ever look at me like I am sick, period. If you're gonna pray for me, if you're gonna look at me, say Jenny is in the process of healing. Send healing thoughts my way. Do not send fear my way. I don't want it. Do not send thoughts of sickness my way. I don't want it. And what I realized is for many years, I had flipped and transformed a lot of the I am sick script. But there was still part of me that said, well, when I'm here, I'm still kind of sick, but when I'm here, I'm not. And I went, shit, I wasn't aligned. So now, on my mirror, I call it the mirror manifestation, there are 0 sick timelines. All timelines are healthy and heavenly. So I came up with that and I felt pretty proud of myself, right? But I'm still walking around. And I would say that voice, that hope, that courage, that positivity is the loudest voice in my head. But if I'm being very honest, which I like to be because my brand is raw and real, I'm still having some yeah buts, some gnats, some bugs flying around my head saying, yeah, but. And that scared me. Because then I'm like, wait, am I still not aligned? Because I'm focusing, I have my direction, but I still have these bugs, these negativities around me. And that scared me. So I think what the universe is trying to tell me, and I like to share my wisdom so that the song, the wisdom, is not stuck inside of me, and hopefully somebody else can use this too. We're always going to have a little bit of fear, guilt, doubt, and insecurity. No matter how many times we transform it, we shrink it, but it's still going to be there. And I was like, But it's kind of like saying, don't worry, because you have to have it. If you don't have it, you're going to stagnate, and then that's when you really might get sick. But if you have a little bit of negativity, of doubt, of insecurity, let it be the wind in your sail. Let that help you choose the direction of where you point your boat. You can either point your boat back toward the negative and drive yourself into it, and then life seems like a struggle because you're struggling against the wind, against the current. Or you can say thank you. Turn your boat around. Let the negativity, the wisdom that you learned from being uncomfortable, or just the uncomfortableness of the negative thoughts, let that be the wind that pushes you forward, that says, well, I know I don't want that. Okay? And still keep your eyes on the lighthouse, on the desired destination. That was a big aha for me this morning, because if I'm being honest, I was scared. I'm like, I'm healthy, there's heavenly timelines, I can create heaven and health no matter where I'm planted. And our boss gave us this book, something about the coffee bean. I'll put a link in the description below as well, which again is amazing. I swear to God, this is another thing that kind of makes me believe that everything is connected, because I'll spend a whole summer thinking about, contemplating about something, and I've been contemplating how everything goes from the inside out, how we can actually influence and change our environment. And then I get to work and they give us a book that basically says the same thing. So when you hear something from multiple sources all around you, that's the universe talking to you. This is what we're supposed to learn. We could either turn around against the wind and let the wind shape us and push us around our outside environment, or we can turn around and let it push us toward where we'd really like to be. So, just to wrap things up really quickly, we need negative and positive. Negative is never going to go away. We can shrink it. We can make it less ugly, less scary through mindfulness, meditation, visualization, and script flipping. But the gnats, the bugs, are always going to be on the boat with us. The choice is, which direction do you point your boat? Toward the negativity, which is going to be a struggle, and it's not really where Source wants you to go, or toward your desired destination. And then let the wisdom of the uncomfortableness push you. So, if you still have negative, scary thoughts in your mind, good. It means you're not stagnating. But now you have a choice to focus and make the negative, nasty thoughts loud, or to turn around, kind of put on your noise canceling headphones, make their sound quieter, and let them push you forward. Say, hey, thanks for speaking to me, because I know that's not where I want to be. I can kind of hear you. I'm just not letting you get power over me anymore. And then something kind of magical happens. The negative thoughts, while they might buzz around you and annoy you and taunt you, The moment you say, you cannot have power over me, they can't touch you. You become untouchable. So we're always going to have negative thoughts. Negative thoughts have a purpose to get us to expand, grow, and it pushes us forward in flow. So be thankful for them. I think that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to say, okay, I'm not afraid of you anymore. I'm grateful for you. Because if you weren't here, I'd be in the doldrums. I'd be stagnant. That's when I'm probably going to be sick. So thank you for being here. Because you're pushing me forward from where I don't want to be to where I want to be. I hope that this thought, this talk has helped someone today. So you can use your own fears, your own guilt, your own insecurities to first shrink them, to have them find miracles in the mud for you, and then push you along. And then I hope you can take this message and teach it to someone else who might be struggling. Hey, if you're struggling, if you have fear, if you have guilt, if you have insecurity, good for you. You're not dead. You're moving. You're alive. You're being pushed forward. And then maybe you can help them find the miracle in the mud from their own fear, guilt, insecurities. And yet help them, first yourself, and then you turn the boat around toward the desired destination. And who knows? Maybe you might get a whole damn crew on board, and now you're all going forward. And even though you've got your little nasties on board with you, you're all just drinking and having a merry good time, because when you're connected to people and you're in joy and communication, it's like you can't even hear them anymore because you're so focused on the people around you who are helping you get through. I hope you find your crew. I hope you find your desired destination. And I hope your day is filled with peace and blessings.